Welcome to Laugh and Learn. Our last conversation with Jennifer about relaxation for sensitive people led us to another phrase many people have heard: you're too much. Today, we're asking what that may actually mean when one person's way of processing meets another person's capacity, pace, or way of communicating. Let's start here. Too much of what and for whom? I'm glad you're here. Make sure you like and subscribe, and we are going to be joined by Jennifer. Welcome everyone to Laugh and Learn. I am here with the amazing Jennifer from My Holistic Self and Holistic Self Counseling. Jennifer, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Yes, it really is. I am TarotStache, for those of you who do not know me. Hello. And I am glad everyone is here. This is going to be an interesting conversation, and it really did come from the last conversation we had in July. So it's almost been 2 months.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things. These are just fun to continue the conversation and to explore things. As always, I want everybody to please like and subscribe because it's free. I do have memberships on my channel, so if you're looking at ways to show support, you can become a member, you can give thumbs up, you can share this video with someone who might actually be curious about this. It is by no way taking place of professional help and professional work. So this is for entertainment purposes only. Do not make decisions based upon what we say. Seek professional assistance. Really. Before we dive into this, catch up, and do all of that good stuff, I do want to remind my members I am having my first members or the TarotStache reading salon at 4:30 Eastern via Zoom, and that link is in the post on YouTube for the community members. And we are going to be reading with my Circle Punch Todd Alcott cards. So I'm looking forward to that. It's my first one.
Very nice.
Yes. Silky is here. Hello. Plucky Heroine. Anna Heaton is here. Beth Aspasia Rising. Kaylee Fogo Pogo is work lurking. And it's perfect. So I'm loving this. Thank you for those of you who are watching, who are lurking, who are not typing in. You matter, and this is a big help. Jennifer, what's been going on with you before we go into all of the notes?
All the stuff. Yeah, no, things are going well. Been busy. If you guys are on my page, you'll see I've been doing the weekly energy updates,
Yes.
mystic messages that are just simple, check-in meditations that we can do to make sure that we're honoring the energy that is happening around us. Yeah, and then of course Twiller Talk every week, and we mentioned it last time on Twillo Talk that we're also doing a Story of the Stars now once a month. And
Hmm.
Diane G is joining us for that. So
Yes.
we got a few different things going on.
Beautiful. That's great.
Mhm.
Who's your guest today on Twillo Talk?
Susan Manowich.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
So it's very exciting. Yeah, it's we've had quite a lineup of guests that we've been meeting through different parts of the ET community and what
Hmm.
they're bringing forward. And so Susan has been doing a lot of work with consciousness and all as well. So it's going to be
I
a
like
great
that.
conversation.
I
Hmm.
like that. D Painless has joined us, and Shem has joined us. So we're simulcasting this on both of our channels and Jennifer's Facebook page because she's fancy like that.
Or maybe I'm not fancy and that's why I'm on Facebook.
So what's really important is as we talk about this, I have 3 pages of notes, and Jen has 3 pages of notes that she gave us, but Jen's are nice little graphics. Mine aren't. And
I like graphics because it
yes,
helps the mind to process through.
I agree.
So,
So that phrase, "you're too much," when we were talking, it seemed to be a real point for many people of some stress or awareness. And that's why we wanted to talk about that. And it's that you're too much. It's like you're too emotional, too detailed, too intense. There's too much backstory, there's too much processing. And so rather than deciding that someone is simply too much, we want to look at what may actually be happening when one person's way of processing meets another person's capacity, pace, or way of communicating. And because there are at least 2 people in every conversation.
absolutely.
So today, Jennifer and I are going to explore that what too much may actually be really describing, where responsibility belongs, and how we can understand ourselves without either shrinking ourselves or
Hmm.
expecting everyone else to process exactly the way we do. I
We're
said
taking on
this.
a lot.
It is. We are taking on a lot, and we've got a lot of
Mhm.
really good information.
Yeah,
And so, and we've got Bonzo has arrived, and Hypnicity is here. That said,
yeah.
I've had many people over my many decades on the planet tell me that I'm too intense.
Mm,
Okay.
yeah.
And you shrinking myself is the word, Gerald. Shrinking
Yeah.
myself. Yeah. We'll talk about that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I want to, to start it, and Gerald and I were talking about this a little bit backstage, is I just want to preface this because we've been talking about highly sensitive and all of that, that I want to be careful that when we're talking about sensitive people, we don't automatically position the sensitive person as the one that everybody is experiencing as too much. Okay?
Thank
Because
you.
as sensitive people, we may very well be the one experiencing someone else as too much, right? I know that for me, the volume's too high, somebody's pace, their intensity, the questions or expectations that they're putting
Yeah.
on, that need for constant interaction, the way that they handle conflict, like all of these things, even just proximity. Right? Sometimes somebody, it's like, whoa, it's too much. Even if you're not saying anything, it's too much. So
Yes.
we want to make sure that as we have this conversation, that too muchness isn't a kind of person, right? It's an experience that happens at the intersection of people. Their
Mhm.
processing style, their nervous system, their histories, our needs, and of course our capacity that we have
Yes.
available at any given moment.
Hmm. I think that's beautifully said. Anna agrees with you. Beth has shared, of course, Jennifer, when my sister told me she's like a cat and I'm like a dog, I get it. She's putting up an energy boundary. Still a bummer, though. It is. Yeah. And well, and Bonzo shares, not to be a contrarian, you are who you are, but you can't bring a ton of drama to others and expect them to absorb it all either.
Yeah.
You are who you are, but there's an important aspect of understanding how you are in the world just naturally, because part of that communication, there's two people involved, at least two people involved in every communication, every exchange. We do have to pay attention, and we will get to that, because that's actually part of what we have to look at.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there you go. I get, yes, when my world gets too people-y, I retreat. And just recently, my boyfriend was too much. Now, out of the picture. Okay. Yeah. Drama and energy are two different things, in my opinion. They are, but energy and drama oftentimes augment both. They can. Yes. Let's look at this first one. When someone says you're too much, what are they actually responding to?
So what is happening when somebody says that is their internal process is hitting a limit of some kind.
Mm-hmm.
So this could show itself in a lot of different ways. But one of the things I want to look at is like what is happening inside of us, right? And as a sensitive person, I think this is something that people don't often see. As a sensitive person, we may already be processing an enormous amount of information before anybody around us realizes it. This is
Mm-hmm.
kind of what we were talking about in some of the previous shows. And so we're noticing tone, we're noticing body language, we're noticing changes in energy, right? That you were talking about, that subtle shift in the environment. We're noticing, our own emotional response, the other person's emotional response, or what we're perceiving it to be. We're trying to interpret what something means. And then, of course, we're running it through all of our filters. What
Yes.
happened the last time something like this occurred? What was available to us then? Now, all of a sudden, it's not really a new experience. We're processing it through that similar experience. And then you add in all of the sensory information, all the social, emotional information. So, externally, somebody might see what looks like this really big reaction to something that they perceive as little. But internally, it's not a little thing at all. It's this, we might have like, 56 different things that are happening before
Yes.
anybody saw the reaction at all. And then eventually the system reaches capacity and then we get overflow. The emotion comes
Mm-hmm.
out, the words come quickly. And this isn't just negative. It's everything. There might be tears, frustration, excitement, the need to move, the need
Yes.
to talk. Sometimes there's this urgent need to even get away, right? People
Mm-hmm.
were talking about that hermit, that need to get away from everybody or everything.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a lot of joy or excitement. I've had a lot of clients come and talk about that piece of like, oh, I'm too much because I'm too excited, and they take it as this like
Yes.
hyperactivity or something like that. But things that bring us joy, creative ideas, even connection sometimes can be very heightened within the nervous system and doesn't know how to respond.
Mm-hmm.
And so it comes out as this too muchness to somebody
Yes.
else's system.
And I think it's an important. I love how you've described that, and people are agreeing. And Morella has joined us. I think part of what's important for me is I have to be able to separate the person from the way they're processing. Surprise, I can be very animated. I can be very loud. I have learned over the years that my volume naturally is loud. I've also learned that my uh, pace is hyperdrive.
Mhm.
I've learned that, and that goes back to things that we've talked about, Jennifer, about, noticing, understanding who we are. So it gives me an opportunity to go, okay, wait a minute. I have to notice for myself when I'm starting to get really excited.
Yeah,
It's really, really important.
absolutely. And we need to, we need to notice when something feels too much within us, just as much as we're processing what may be too much externally. I think the issue comes, and I know we're going to get to this later, when we try to filter our too muchness.
Oh, yeah. Because when we filter our too muchness, and I learned this in my postgraduate work in Gestalt therapy, if you try to filter one emotion, you cannot do that. You filter all emotions
Mm-hmm.
for entertainment purposes only. I do want to say hello to Curtis, the Creek County Oracle.
Hello.
Hello. And Beth has shared tip: don't have big energy and marry a narcissist. They are not supportive. Yeah, in fact, uh, maybe don't marry a narcissist in any situation. Hmm. That's a whole different show.
That could be it, one
Yeah,
altogether.
yeah. Nalani says, I'm still triggered by being the baby of the family. Oh, I understand that. I
Mm.
understand that. And yeah. And Vicky Howell has joined us. Hi,
Hello,
Vicky.
Vicky.
And hey, Plucky said, your too much may only be situational.
Yep,
Other times, you are really great. The energy between two people can be a constant state, can be in a constant state of flux.
absolutely.
Beautifully said. Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Now, since we got here and we're talking about this idea of sensitive people and learning to relax, and let's talk what may already be happening inside a sensitive person before anyone else experiences them as too much. By the way, if you've missed that show, links are in the description, so please make sure you catch up. Really helpful. It's a lot of information.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is what we were kind of talking about already, right? All of the different processes that are happening inside, right? That
Mm-hmm.
we're trying to navigate all of the inputs that are coming in. And, to add to that, not just the processing of like the sensory information, the social information, the emotional, what's happening. We might be trying to mitigate what we think is happening with the other
Yes.
person as well. And this is where sometimes we step into containment. So, the opposite of that overflow that we were just talking about is we start to kind of shut down and contain everything.
Mm-hmm.
So if if we've been hearing a lot of like you're too sensitive or too traumatic or you make a big deal out of things, what ends up happening is that we start to hold things in, right? Like you were saying about that shutting down of
Yes.
an emotion, which then shuts down the system. But the other part of that is that now we're not just processing all of the things that we're experiencing. We're also monitoring everything that we're experiencing. Am I talking too much? Am I being annoying? Should I
Yes.
stop? Did their face just change? Are they upset with me? Am I talking? Am I taking up too much space? And all of the self monitoring that is now added to the processing And so here, trying not to be too much can itself become too much for the nervous system. And then we end up shrinking ourselves before anybody has even realized that there's something happening.
Yes. I mean, Morella said yes, scared to talk or express.
Yeah.
And yeah, here you go. I am sensitive, Nalani said. Not too much or too little. You are who you are. Yes. And fully embrace it. And understanding who we are gives us the ability to have the connections that we want and we need. But that you I think you said that idea of that containment can be too much. I mean, that's right. I didn't just imagine that, but it's that idea of when you're worrying about being too much, that causes other things to activate, and it takes us out of our natural ability to connect.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can have too much shutdown as much as we can have too much, you know, being put out into
Yes.
the
Yes.
experience.
Yeah. Vicky has said, why do some people call sensitive people dramatic instead of understanding what's going on?
It takes some real self awareness to see yourself outside of yourself, which
Yes.
means that we see everything through our filters.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is through our own experience. And
Yes.
unless we are able to recognize that somebody else's experience is different, we label it whatever makes sense in our mind.
Yes. Nicely said. Nicely said. Yeah. Vicky said, I am considered aloof because of that, afraid to say anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And part of that is the ability for us to, and we will talk about this, it's how do we, what happens when it's just a mismatch. I think maybe we should move on to that one, because
Absolutely.
that question is, I did create this. Anyone can be too much. Anyone can experience someone as too much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that, I think, the last part specifically, anyone can experience someone as too much, goes back to several of the comments here, because the exact same experience one day can be wonderful and the next day can be too much. That has nothing to do with the person. It has to do with us and our processing ability.
Yes.
So I might be like, yeah, we're good. This is great. I love the energy. Another day I might be like, whoa, hold up, too much. And on Gerald's end, there might be no difference in the energy presented,
Yeah.
right? That speaks completely to me and where I'm at. And
Yes.
so we're going to look at this a little bit later too, but I want to look at the language around it. What is it that we're actually trying to say with that too muchness versus just kind of putting it out there as this blanket, oh, you're too much, right? To notice what's actually happening in those moments.
Yes. Yes. Beautiful conversation going on in the chat. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to be able to put all of them up. This is funny. Beth says, well, Gerald, when my one son who has ADHD and he's a Leo tells me I'm too much, LOL, I listen. And see, that's actually something we're going to be talking about. That's our last question. The idea of is how do we pay attention?
Yeah.
And own my part in what's going on,
Mm-hmm.
while holding space and holding you accountable for what's going on. And
Yeah.
I do think anyone who has ever tried to work on themselves
Mm-hmm.
with the support of a professional, and you have this awareness, it's the yellow car syndrome. You buy a yellow car and suddenly everyone has a yellow car. If you are suddenly aware that, I remember specifically me, when I was talking too loudly, I was like going, am I talking too loudly? And then I actually had people say, I can't hear you. What? It's like, it's that extreme.
Yeah.
And Curtis has shared for my, I use crystals and oils and incense to help maintain the filter my too muchness, so to speak. Tools, fabulous.
Mm-hmm.
Fabulous. Fully endorse that. I think it's beautiful.
Yeah.
I think we all, and that's part of, isn't that part of regulation? We've
Mm-hmm.
talked about that.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. You guys are already touching on so many things that we want to talk about, which is fantastic.
Yes.
Um,
Okay.
there's a
Um,
comment Hypnicity made of I've gotten very quiet and it's mistaken for not caring. And then Anna said, thank you for the remark. And I think that this is a really important piece too, because the next thing that we were talking about is like processing style versus processing capacity, right? And I think it's really useful for us to separate those two. How somebody processes and how much capacity they have to process are two distinct things, because as we were just saying, two people can both be perfectly regulated and have completely different processing styles. Right?
mhm.
One person needs to talk in order to discover what they're thinking. Another person needs to think before they can talk. Right? Somebody wants all the details, and somebody just wants the key headlines. One person needs the emotional acknowledgement and also that they can begin to think about solutions together, where somebody else wants to hear all of the details. Right?
Yes.
And then is like, okay, let's go. So we recognize that because we are all so uniquely different, neither one is necessarily doing anything wrong. It's just that their strategies, they collide, they don't mesh.
Yeah. And it doesn't make one right and the other wrong.
No.
It's just they're not linking.
Mm-hmm.
They're not
Absolutely.
matching. And that's where, welcome to being a human being.
Yeah. Yeah. And to Hypnicity's comment about being mistaken for not caring, like, let's play this out, right? So one person becomes overwhelmed and needs space. So then their partner experiences that withdrawal as disconnection and they get anxious. Right now, we're also looking a little bit at attachment styles here, but that's a whole other conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So then they move in closer. They ask more questions. They want reassurance. They want to talk it through. Now, the first person's system has even more input. So then they're going to withdraw further, which
Yes.
makes the other person pursue more. Again, one isn't right and the other wrong. It's just that at that point, both people are experiencing the other's too muchness, even in that not enough, right? So
Yes.
the intensity is too much, where the other one is the distance is too much, right? There
Yeah.
isn't somebody who's right or wrong, but the way that they're trying to handle it, and ultimately because they both care, right? But they're trying to handle it in their own way that's going to help them gain capacity
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to continuing to lose capacity.
It is a beautiful thing to, if you know how your natural tendencies are to react when you're getting in different situations,
Mm-hmm.
to have conversations about the way you respond when you're not in those situations with those people who care about you.
Mm-hmm.
That's regulation when you're not needing to be regulated. That's just that beautiful time of, hey, I'm working on something and I would like to have, I wanted to let you know this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's important. I think that's beautiful.
It is important. And I think that also, to some of the comments that have been going through as well,
Yes.
because our capacity isn't the same every day. I sure know mine isn't the same
Oh,
every
yeah.
day. Right? Sometimes I have enormous capacity for complexity and emotion and conversation. And some days I'm wiped before I've even started the
Yes.
day. right? And so when we're dealing with, recognizing where we're at, I think that really is always going to be the key. Can I take my own temperature? Can I know where I am at so that I can recognize if I have capacity or if I don't,
Yeah.
right? So it doesn't mean that I'm going to become too much, but I might be feeling like I just don't have the availability to
Hmm.
handle it, right? So,
Yes.
how we communicate that is going to be really important.
That's beautiful, because that's an important thing. That's where self-awareness is extremely helpful,
Mm-hmm.
because you know when you're starting to get to that point, and you can help other people adjust, or you can adjust. And some people have, like, withdrawing is a good at times for boundaries. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And Anna has been sharing some beautiful things, especially about how they need to be heard and seen, and you know especially because of the emotional exhaustion with that.
Yeah,
And yeah.
yeah.
And so it's beautiful. I think this is really very important. And so, did you have it? Linda de Gonzalez has arrived, by the way.
Welcome, welcome.
um, was there any other comments that you wanted me to point out before we go on to the mismatch in
Yeah.
processing?
Um, well, Hypnicity made a comment about my reactions change based on the phases of the moon. And I do think that we do want to recognize what's happening with the energies around us too, because not everything is ours. I know there are times where I feel a lot more energized and I'm like, okay, what is happening right now? What is going on? And so knowing what's happening in our system, but also knowing what's happening in the collective, because it, again, if we are highly sensitive, it's impacting us anyway. But
Mm.
if we're highly sensitive, we're going
Yes.
to be feeling it for sure. Um, this is a complete aside, but I do have, and I'll find the link for it on the website, and I can put it in the chat. But I do have an app. It's totally free right now because it's not costing too much at the moment. But it's for regulating and recognizing your own rhythms.
Yes.
And I think that this is really important because I know if I have a day where my emotional energy is high and my mental energy is low, that I'm going to struggle during that time to process things. And I'm going to be a lot more emotional. If I have, a time where my emotional energy is high, but my mental clarity is also high, yeah, I'm going to have more emotional weight, but I'm going to be able to process that energy a bit more. So, really, like tracking where we're at and knowing where we're at can be a very valuable tool as well.
Yes. I do have to say, um, when people blame their bad choices on astrological or energy things, I call bullshit. And I want to I want to remove, Nalani's thing. I'm not talking about that. I think it's beautiful to have awareness of these things,
Yes.
because when you have awareness of these things, you know how to adjust. You have
Absolutely.
additional information.
Absolutely.
Um, yes. And
And I want to get into that a little bit more too, because the comment earlier about like that's just how I am and how that often will just end a conversation, but that's not okay, right? And I think, to what you're saying, the more that we are able to recognize what's happening or the impact that something has on us, it is just more information. At no point should I let that be my, okay, that's just it. I always have a choice.
talking about that, when people just say, "Oh, that's just the way I am," you have suddenly given your power to someone or something else.
Mm-hmm.
You have lessened yourself.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Don't. Yeah, excuse me. Gerald from TarotStache would say, "Do not lessen yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Jax is also here. Curtis, are you still here, by the way? And this is the Cycles of Awareness, which is a great little tool to help.
Mm-hmm.
And oh, yep. And Curtis is here, has said we have free will to choose.
Absolutely.
Everybody look away for a second. Hey, Curtis, it would be really fun to have you on my channel at some point. If you want to reach me, I'm tarotstache@gmail.com. I'd love to have a conversation with you on my channel. Just get to know you. Yeah. Okay, now everybody can pay attention. And
Sidebar.
yeah, sidebar, sidebar. And Jax is trying to lurk, but have to say hi to my Linda. Aw.
Aw.
Timmy is here. Hello, Timmy.
Hello, hello.
And let's do it.
Yay.
Oh. And again, I want to, this is again, it goes back to that idea is anyone can be too much and anyone can experience someone as too much.
Yes.
Does not make it right or wrong. It is just a thing. And when we learn to adjust to that, and I know, okay, I know for me, it's like Jennifer, you using your, the app to help you, okay, mentally I'm exhausted today. And you could say to someone, I don't really have the capacity to think this through. I can support you, but it's part of it. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the more that we are aware of where we're at, again, not an excuse, but it allows for a clearer conversation,
yes,
right? So
I
instead
I
of,
love that. I love that. It's this beautiful idea. By the way, J Cat Lady's here also.
oh,
It's that
welcome.
beautiful idea of saying, um, just so that on my way in, I got a phone call from my daughter's school, and she's not feeling well, so I have a friend going to pick her up. I'm a little distracted.
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly, everybody in the room has the awareness. Being able to know that that's what you need doesn't lessen what you do. What it does is it shifts the energy to where everyone is focused on the same thing.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Because the goal is never to become less sensitive. The goal isn't so that everybody, you know, endlessly expands their capacity or shrinks themselves or does whatever, right? The goal is always greater awareness. Awareness leads to greater capacity and greater
Yes.
choice, right? So, like you're saying, instead of, ugh, you're too much, it's like, I want to hear this, but I'm getting overloaded. Can we slow down,
Yeah.
right? I care
Yes.
about what you're telling me, but I don't have capacity to process this right now. Can we come back to it?
Yeah. Yeah. And Plucky says, I have told friends and family that I'm running only on 2 cylinders and will engage later. There are times, there are beautiful times, and I've said this to Jeffrey. He's an internal processor. Surprise! I'm an out loud processor, and and it leads beautifully into this. When is too much actually a mismatch in processing,
Mm-hmm.
communication, or capacity? Because there are some times when I need to process, and I will actually say, "Can you do that with me?"
Yeah.
And he can say, give me 15 minutes or no.
Mm-hmm.
And then my response is, great. Let me know when you are. And then there are other times when I say, this is an emergency. I need help.
Yeah.
And because that gives it draws the whole point of that conversation is to bring people together. So
I love that. And again, this speaks to vulnerability and our ability to connect with what's happening inside of us so that we can be communicating that clearly. But it takes acknowledging, ooh, I might be feeling some kind of way right now, or,
yes,
you know.
yes.
I think there's one other thing I want to do before we move on to talk about here, and that's about the attunement and some differentiation, because
Please.
as sensitives, right, one piece of that is that we sometimes become incredibly attuned to other people's states. Right? I don't know about you, but like I notice every sigh, every grunt, every change in facial expression, every slight, shift in tone. If there's tension in a room, we can generally feel it, right? So we're picking up all of this information that not everybody notices, right? And noticing something doesn't necessarily tell us what it means. And I think this is so important because the brain is a meaning maker.
Yes.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
But just because I'm noticing it doesn't automatically mean that I know what it means, and it doesn't make it mine to manage.
Uh-huh.
This is key. Someone can be disappointed without requiring me to fix their disappointment. They can be anxious without requiring me to regulate their anxiety, right? But as highly sensitives, we know that we often want to do that because we're feeling it too. But somebody who's frustrated with me doesn't automatically mean that I've even done something wrong. And so this is where that differentiation comes in, because it's so important. I can be sensitive to what is happening in you without becoming responsible for what is happening in you.
Say that again for the people in the back.
I can be sensitive to what is happening in you without becoming responsible for what is happening in you.
It goes back to that idea is I can care and not carry.
Yes. Right? Exactly. I can notice the emotional state and really remain connected to my own state. Because otherwise, that sensitivity is exhausting. Right? I'm
Yes.
processing my internal world, I'm processing everybody else's internal world, and I'm making up stories for it because I don't actually know what's
Yeah.
happening. I just feel the sensation of it.
Yes. Linda brings up that's hypervigilance. It's a survival skill from childhood.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So we've got a lot of love for that, Jennifer. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, yes,
Yeah.
love that. Truth. It's like, yep.
Yeah.
And, that's right. I had to learn that lesson with my family. Congratulations for learning it. And congratulations for when you can remember to apply it in a way that is kind to yourself and to others.
Yeah.
So, yes. I love this. I love this. Okay, so hang on. When is too much? When is too much actually a mismatch in processing, communication, or capacity?
Yeah, I think that's what we were kind of just talking about,
We
right?
were, we were. Yeah, sorry.
When
And
there's that mismatch, because again, that idea of too much, the person who's saying, "Oh, you're too much," it's not anything to do with you, right? It has to do with where they're at. And sometimes this is kind of a, I don't know, clumsy way of setting a boundary,
yes,
right? Sometimes somebody is just going like, I can't handle this and I need to set a boundary here. But instead of actually saying, I can't handle this right now, I need to set a boundary here, they just go, oh, you're too much, right? So we do want to recognize when that happens, because it's really not about us necessarily even being too much, right? It
yes,
just means that they're not able to meet you there. And yeah, it can be sad. I know some of the comments. It's like it's kind of sad when they can't meet me there. And it's
yes.
true, but it doesn't mean that we have to shrink or become something other than ourselves because of that.
Hmm. Yeah.
Right?
Plucky says, yet not my problem is the insensitive response.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is where, we were some other comments were getting to this earlier, because there is that whole other side to this conversation that is also very important. That honoring that sensitivity doesn't mean that we never have to, look at our own behavior. There's
Hmm.
a difference between saying, well, this is just how my system works, to recognizing, yeah, this is how my system works. Therefore, everybody else has to just accommodate me, right? Like there's a difference there. It's like, one, I'm recognizing, yeah, this is what's happening inside of me, so I can work with that. I can adjust, I can make accommodations for it, versus like take it or leave it, right? That's that insensitive way of
Hmm.
handling it.
Yes. Um, which graphic is this about? I mean,
Uh,
I'm just like, because okay, Jennifer's created 3 graphics and they're really quite good, and it's like, I don't know. Before I do this, I want to say Timmy said in AA we follow this reality. I
mhm,
have no control over the behavior of others, nor can I control things that happen.
mm,
We can control our reactions to other people's behavior and things that happen.
yeah. Absolutely. So I guess this would go with the important distinction one.
Yes, I'm going to put this up so that I think this is really helpful. The important distinction is this one.
Hmm.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
there's a
And
diff. Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to read, and it's hard to see. Jennifer, eventually will have this on available on her website. There is a difference between taking responsibility for our impact and taking responsibility for someone else's capacity. And in the center here, I am responsible for me, and you are responsible for you. I
Hmm.
think that's really a beautiful thing. And I like, you can't see it over the chat, but under the chat it says, none of those things happen automatically. Means none of those things happen automatically means somebody is deficient. It's not. I mean, just be aware. And by the way, I'm talking too much. I'm excited. I'm having what Curtis said is a squirrel moment. So, do you want to say anything about this beautiful graphic?
Yeah, I think this is such an important piece for us to remember, especially if we're going to hold space for somebody without taking on everything, right? Care, not carry, as we said. I'm responsible for how I communicate. If I'm the one who's really excited about something, I'm responsible for the way that I'm presenting that. If I'm the person who is feeling like it's too much, I'm responsible for how I communicate that, right? I'm responsible for learning how to regulate myself, and I'm responsible for respecting your boundaries,
Yes.
right? I'm going to notice my patterns. I don't have to notice your patterns, right? So I'm going to be repairing when my behavior hurts somebody because I care about them. But I'm not going to, on the other side of this, become small enough so that nobody ever feels uncomfortable. I'm not going to shrink myself so that you don't become overwhelmed or triggered or challenged by me, because that's not my responsibility. If you come back and say, "Wow, that really felt, triggering," or that felt, I'm happy to hold that space for you to process that,
Yes.
right? But that trigger, I may be the catalyst for it, but it's not my fault, right? That's, I think, a very important distinction. And so I'm not going to manage or abandon my own limits either
Yeah.
in order to prove that I love or accept you. And I think that these are the two sides of the coin of what we often do when we get into people pleasing and all of that kind of stuff, because we're trying to make the space comfortable for the other person, as
Yes.
opposed to recognizing that we need to figure that out together.
Hmm. I love that. I love that. We have gotten some other beautiful comments. I'm going to put the comments back up so that everybody can see them. And a lot of love for this. And Curtis did say, it's okay to see the baggage, but not carry it.
Absolutely.
It's a nice way to describe that. And so, yeah, that's really, really, really important. I I think this is that, we've sort of talked about this, but I think it's a really important thing of is when someone says, come on. What happens when that's just the way I am becomes the end of the conversation? We've sort of talked about this. I want to give it its space.
Yeah, this is so important. Because think about this. This goes both ways and it applies to everyone. So think about the example that we gave earlier of the two people, and the one person needs to talk it out and the other person needs space, right? So that person who says, well, I need to talk things through, if that becomes an excuse for not respecting the other person's need for space, that's not okay.
Yes.
Right? The same as the person who needs space being, saying like, well, no, I need space, and just dismissing the issue. Right? So we have to be able to communicate our needs and then come to a place where we can agree on how to navigate that. Right? Because otherwise we do end up avoiding the responsibility of it.
Yeah.
Right? I can't just say, well, I'm just not emotional, like, get over it or whatever. Like, we're not honoring that space. Right?
Yes.
If I, say, well, I just don't do conflict, I'm not honoring that maybe there's something here that needs to be worked through. Right? So
Yes.
anytime that it's a, well, I just, right? Like we want to notice that and go, okay, I recognize that I need space, but I also recognize that you need to talk this through. So as
Yes.
you said, with it, we might say, okay, let's come back to this in 15 minutes. Let's come back to this in an hour. Whatever it is that we need to do, but it's about being willing to show up and being willing to be a little uncomfortable in
Yeah.
that space.
Yeah, that's very true. Beautiful, beautiful comments.
Yeah.
Um, and so hard. So I'm seeing these great comments. To allowing others to be who they are goes a long way toward building trust. And I have a friend and neighbor who was not respecting my boundary of solitude and and a bit of distance. So I literally brought receipts, my Myers-Briggs test, to state that I am an INTP, needs space. Yeah. And here you go. Trust seems to be the foundation here. Otherwise, not sure any of it works. I trust that when you say you need space, it's true, not manipulation or power tripping.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Absolutely.
I think if I can do this, I believe I can do this. Can we
Oh, look
see that?
at that.
Look at that.
I
So,
can see that.
because this is one of those things, and it is important for us, and I'm going to remove the comment, but it's really important for us we have to be careful not to erase ourselves.
Absolutely.
So and this is that, how do we honor sensitivity without shrinking ourselves or overwhelming someone else? And these are really key things.
Yeah, it's so easy to go into, right? Like what it can look like into suppressing our feelings, our needs, our opinions, over apologizing, people pleasing, walking on eggshells, avoiding conflict and hard conversations, right? Disconnecting from our own truth. And so everything seems quiet on the outside, but inside there's just chaos. Because what ends up happening, right, that cost is the resentment, the exhaustion, the loss of self, disconnection, and eventual breakdown of the relationship. This is where, as the highly sensitive, we start censoring everything, because we're trying to make the space around us okay, and we're trying to, as much as we, don't necessarily say it, like we're trying to manage the other person. So we're taking responsibility for them and their regulation. Whereas in the relational regulation, we can both be present. I'm connected to myself, and you need to be connected to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can notice what's happening in between us.
Yes.
Right? And, trust, that, the comment, trust is the basis. It is. We do need discernment in who we practice this with, because we want
Correct.
to make sure that we're practicing it with people who are willing to also hold their space and connect with themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I love this. I love this illustration. It's so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And it is, because it's what's happening between us right here is where the beauty is. And every time, in every life experience, it's not, you're not going to connect with every single person, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's important that we continue to try, and we continue to put that effort toward connecting with others.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, Lexi has said, that just popped in, I'm too much. What do you mean? I'm just enough.
Got
Yes,
it.
yes, you are.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. If you erase yourself for long enough, when you begin to regulate, it surprises them. Hold the line. Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, it's so true. Um,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The other image actually probably would have gone earlier in the conversation, because it's
sure.
about what's happening in our nervous system, right? So
Yes.
that question about like what's really going on, because we don't just react to each other, right? We bring, our history, our capacity, and our way of experiencing the world.
Let me find
These are
that.
all the filters that we
Yes.
have.
Yes. Of course it would have. Okay, let me see if I can bring that in.
Mm-hmm.
This is that point where, this is where I want to have I want to have a producer backstage to where they can make that happen. And
Can I
this one,
share on my end, or you got it?
I got it.
You got it.
Yep.
Yeah. This is so important, right? So the previous one where you were pointing out, like, what is it that's happening between us, is just such a small piece of what's actually happening, because I'm bringing all of my history, my triggers, my beliefs, my capacity, and my needs to the table, and so are they,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they're not necessarily the same.
Yes. And what's great about this is what building relationships is like. I
Mm-hmm.
have to know my history, my beliefs, my capacity, my needs, and
Mm-hmm.
I have to be curious to find out about the other person's to see if we are going to be able to meet in the middle here
Yeah, you got it.
and to have that experience. I think that's really powerful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that should say regulate, not resculate. Typo and repair together.
Okay,
But that we can fix. Yeah.
we can.
But I
Um,
love that last piece, right? Like creating a relationship where we can both exist fully. Right? That is
mhm.
such an important part of this process, because if we are in a safe space and we can trust one another, then I can show up with all of me and you can show up with all of you, and we can figure out how to navigate that together.
Yes, yes. And by the way, it does take time to figure this out.
Yeah.
And it can be messy, it can be clunky, it feels awkward. Just because it feels clunky, awkward, and a little weird, it doesn't mean that it's wrong. It just means that it's authentic,
Yeah.
and that's also an important thing. I like what Lexi said. Being self-aware is a gift and a curse.
Yes.
Definitely can
Yeah,
be.
because we want to be really mindful. And this is, I talk about this with clients all the time. The more self aware we are and the more willing we are to self reflect, the more we potentially can end up taking on things that are not ours. We can make excuses for others. We
Yes.
can allow things that are not really okay in our experience because we will take a step back and go, okay, what did I contribute to that? How did I show up? What could I have done differently? Which are all beautiful, beautiful things, but they can't take away from the other person's responsibility
Correct.
as well.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. So again, I want to go back to the other, and you don't have to put the image back up again, but that idea that there's a difference between taking responsibility for my impact versus responsibility for the other person's capacity.
Yes.
Right. I'm responsible for the things that I communicate and how I regulate myself and all of that. But I cannot become responsible for the the other person in that space. It doesn't mean that I don't recognize if I've impacted them or anything else, but it's such an important thing for us to remember because again, as highly sensitive, we tend to try to take up all of it, right? To take it all in and to manage all of it.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I'm glad you mentioned that intent versus impact.
Mm-hmm.
And when we understand that our intent did not have the impact that we wanted, we have opportunities to build a relationship and to be authentic with each other and admit, wow, yep, okay, that makes, I could see where that hit like that. That certainly was not my intention.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good.
Yeah, I think this is where it really changes, right? Instead of am I too much or why are they so much, really shifting the question to what is it that's happening between us right now that feels like too much?
Yes. And that really moves it away from whether or not someone is too sensitive. It
Mm-hmm.
just moves it into, well, gosh, it could be something that's an environment place because I can't hear you and I want to hear you. So, and I think it's really impactful.
Yeah, and if we're going to
Jennifer,
carry anything, sorry, that's responsibility here in terms of like the other, if we can do this for each other, right? Then I
oh,
can look at that
yeah,
and go, okay, I know what I'm feeling. Can you share what you're feeling, right? What are we experiencing? What are we processing to be able to say like, you know, sometimes I'm not even present in the moment because there's too many noises happening, there's too many other things that are going on. And so if I'm going to monitor anything to the other, I might go, okay, what are we each processing right now? Like, what are the things that are happening around us? What's going on? Is this a boundary? Is there something that needs to be discussed? But it immediately shifts it, like you said. The too much isn't about the description of a person, it's a description of what is happening between two people and the capacity that each one has in that moment.
yes, that's beautiful. Wow. I hope people who are watching this now and in the playback leave us a comment to let us know your thoughts on this and if there is a takeaway that that's useful for you or a good reminder.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really really beautiful. I like how you have said we're doing this for each other. It's like with any relationship, I have to give my 100% in any relationship. um, it's relationships are not 50-50. They're 100% and 100% of what you're able to do right now.
Absolutely.
Jennifer,
Absolutely.
do you have some last thoughts for people?
Yeah, I do. What's coming is sensitivity is not a character flaw, and capacity isn't either. Right? Having a boundary isn't rejection, and accommodating someone else doesn't mean that we're immediately abandoning ourselves. But in a healthy relationship, it's it's not that there's places where nobody is ever too much. We just have to recognize, like, what is it that is a lot right now? And instead of looking at it as who's the problem here,
Mhm.
can we ask ourselves, how do we meet each other here?
Yes. That was beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Jennifer, from My Holistic Self. Links in the description. And I do just want to say we're learning about ourselves, and we're learning about ourselves in relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Keep remembering we're supposed to be learning. This is a process. And I do appreciate everybody being here. And on
Mm-hmm.
that note, I will say farewell and thank you. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you so much. It has been an honor to be here with you and with this amazing conversation.
Mhm.
And yeah.
Yes. All righty. Bye, everyone.